Guys, today I'm going to show you guys how to do the fabric tumblers. They're actually very simple, very easy. They are best done with a cotton fabric. It just helps to make it stick a little bit better. I'm going to show you guys how I start one, well, start to finish pretty much. So, this is the fabric I'm going to be using. I got this at Joann's today. It's a light cotton fabric. I have my tumbler. It's a 22 ounce. I've primed it with a white base coat because when I lay this fabric on there, I don't want any weird backgrounds. I went ahead and laid out my fabric, and I sized it on my tumbler already. I actually, for applying the actual fabric, I use Loctite to start off with, just to get the fabric on the cup, and then I'll use Mod Podge later. Let me get another brush. When you are wrapping and sizing your material, you always want to make sure you have a little bit over and a little bit on the bottom, just to give you some give. And then when you are wrapping it, make sure you do have an overlap. That way when we go to cut or seam, we have some give. So, here we go. And my Loctite is the kind I use. The reason why I use Loctite instead of Mod Podge, because it actually forces the fabric to stick to the actual cup, and it doesn't slide around or anything like that. If you notice, I haven't done the bottom yet. I didn't spray the bottom. I do that for a reason. And so when I go to put the fabric on the bottom and everything like that, or when I need to turn it upside down and stuff like that, it's not sticking to anything. So what I do is I take my seed. This is the seed, since this is a fresh cut of fabric. I'm going to go ahead and try and lay it on my cup. Like I said, with the Loctite, it just forces the fabric to stick a little easier. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my hand, and I'm actually going to rub it around the cup, forcing the fabric to lay flat. I'm just going to go all the way around. You want to make sure there's no bumps, any creases, or anything like that, because it will be noticeable later on. So try to lay it on there as flat as possible. This is one of the reasons why I like using the Loctite instead of the Mod Podge, because you're able to work with it a little bit better. Alright. So, now what we're going to do, actually I've already done this on the cup behind, and I'll use that cup to show you some later steps. I'm going to take some Mod Podge. It doesn't really matter what kind. You can do the matte, you can do the the gloss, whatever. It really doesn't matter. I'm going to take a little foam brush. I usually find these at Walmart for a couple dollars or something like that. And now what I'm going to do is that, rotate this a little bit. Okay, so the trick is when using the Mod Podge, you don't want it to look like it's built up or anything like that. You don't want any ridges, especially on your outside, because that's what everybody's going to see, and you want to make sure it dries as smooth as possible. So what we're going to do, and what the Mod Podge actually does is it seals the fabric. So when you go to put epoxy on, you won't get oil slicks or spills where you didn't seal it properly, and the epoxy absorbed to the fabric, and it will make it look like a very dirty cup, and you really don't want that. So what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to take some Mod Podge and we're going to just lay it on there. Like I said, you want to try to get it as smooth and even as possible. You don't want any ridges or anything like that. You don't really want to lay it on too thick. If you notice, when I'm doing this, I'm actually going up and over the edge. The reason why I do this is what happens is that the Mod Podge bonds the fabric in those spots, making it really stiff. So when you actually go to cut your rim, your bottom, and your seam, the fabric will be much easier to work with, and it'll keep it from fraying. So, I'm just going to do a nice, good, even coat all the way around. You're actually going to do this a few times. Like I said, you don't want to just do one layer. You want to do at least 4. 4 is usually a good number. If you still feel uncertain after 4 that it might still give you issues, go ahead and do some more. It's not a problem. But like I said, if you're going to do it, just make sure there's no ridges or anything, and it's just flat all the way around. All the way around. Like I said, go up and over. You start to get a little crease or something in there, just kind of straighten it out. If you guys have any questions or anything, please feel free to ask. We try to answer them as best as I can. Alright, now we're getting to the spot where, excuse me, kind of unscrewed myself here. Wasn't paying attention when I did that. Okay, so now that we've gotten to this part where we have our seam, we're actually going to go over our seam, even though it is this overlap where we're going to create our seam. Like I said, what we're doing is we're bonding the fabric. So when we go to cut that line for our seam, it'll be stiff and it won't fray on you. This is actually a 20-ounce tumbler. This one's a steel dog. This one I actually got on my local military base when they were selling them for cheap, but they kind of caught on, and now they're all the way back up to like $7, $8. But they look like this, straight flat stilts ones. I find them easier to work with because they don't have such a dramatic narrowing, so I find them easier to work with when doing fabric tumblers. Coming loose there. Alright, there we go. So what we're going to do is now, it's still a little damp, but it's alright. We're going to go ahead and do another layer of epoxy. Or epoxy, I'm sorry. We're going to do another layer of Mod Podge. Yes, I will show you guys how to do a clean bottom where it's not bulking up or anything like that. I'll show you a cup here in just a second that I did. I can find them. I'm going to show you guys how to get to cut it, so you actually get a clean piece on the bottom that's not bulked up or ridged or anything like that, and it really won't cause issues when you set it down. So when you do it this way, you really don't get a seam on the bottom. Sorry about the angle. I don't know if you guys can see, because what you're going to do is you're actually going to cut a circle that perfectly fits the bottom, and we'll do it that way, and you really don't see a seam when you do that. Anytime I get fabric, I always have them cut a quarter, or if you're in Walmart or something like that, a fat quarter is fine. You'll always end up with extra fabric. But like this was a quarter after I cut off what I needed. So anytime you do a quarter, you actually get multiple clips out of it. A seam on the side, you're kind of always going to get a bit of a seam. It's just kind of hard to get around that. But what a lot of people do is they'll put a decal across it. So that way you don't really see it. It's not as noticeable, but you're always going to have some kind of seam. It's just a matter of how professional you can get it to look. Yes, because this is a lighter color fabric, I actually used a white base. Just like if I were, I'm going to do another cup with this. This is a Nightmare Before Christmas one. I'm going to spray paint the cup white because it is mostly white. A cup like this one I did right here, this was a black base. Yes, always put Mod Podge all over the fabric. Like I said, if you notice, I'm going over the lips, going a little past what is hanging off. You want a thorough coat, you want it even, you want it smooth. Like I said, you're going to do a couple layers of Mod Podge because you want to seal the fabric as much as possible, because if you don't, the fabric will absorb epoxy when you go to put it on, and you will get what is called oil slicks or oil spills. I did a 30-ounce Raiders one once upon a time. It's a little tricky, but that's one of the reasons why I actually like using Loctite, is because your fabric doesn't shift as much with the Loctite, so you're able to actually like stretch the fabric and try to get it as flat as possible versus using Mod Podge to get it to stick. And I found that with Loctite, unlike Mod Podge, some of the more difficult fabrics that aren't cotton, I've been able to get those to stick to the cups as well. I did a cup with this. This is actually a tulle. This isn't even a cotton fabric, and because of the Loctite method I used, I was able to get it to stick to the cup. I don't know if you can see it because of the angle. So I find Loctite works best when applying the actual fabric, and then use the Mod Podge to seal. Apply all your Mod Podge all the way around. Make sure it's an even coat and everything like that. I usually do at least 4. Then what you're gonna do is you're gonna cut your seam, you're gonna cut your rim, you're gonna cut your bottom, and apply and everything like that. Do another whole coat of Mod Podge, and then you'll do your epoxy. So, but yes, I like using Loctite when I actually apply the fabric because it does give me, like I said, it sticks to a couple. I've actually used this stuff. This stuff is kind of funky. It helps the fabric to actually stick to the cup, so I'm able to stretch it and able to get all the creases and everything out like that. So I end up with much smoother cups. And like I said, I'm able to work with the kind of funky fabrics because of it. Like the Nightmare Before Christmas one I showed you guys a minute ago. This one is actually not even cotton. This one actually has, I think it's like 80% or like 80 something percent cotton, and then the other percentage is spandex, so it actually has a stretch to it. The Loctite will allow me to work with that one much easier than Mod Podge would. And you notice that you do have a little bit of a film as you're applying your Mod Podge. Don't worry about that. Once it dries, all your color will come back, and it'll be bright and vibrant again. Like I said, just wait for it to dry all the way. Alright, so we're actually going to let that dry for a little bit. I've done a few coats on that. We're actually going to come on the other side over here, and I'm going to show you guys how to cut your rims and stuff. So, I'm going to switch you guys over here. Alright, so this one has actually had a few layers of Mod Podge on it. Now what we're going to do is we're actually going to cut our rims and our seams. So, alright. My scissors, one second, guys. guys. So what we're going to do, we're actually going to do our seam that actually runs down right here. This is where your overlap is and everything like that. So I'm going to actually show you guys how to get a good seam off that. So, let me peel this back just a little bit. So what we're actually going to do is, some people use painter's tape, I use electrical tape. If I can find the seam, there it is. And what we're actually going to do is, this is going to be our guide. What we're going to do is that we're going to go right over here where it's already been overlapped and everything like that, and we're actually going to lay it on the cup like so. Try to get it as straight as you possibly can, because that is going to be your guide from when we cut this fabric off. Alright, so as you can see, we have a line here. I think I got that pretty straight on there. It's a little crooked. Alright, got your line. Here's your guideline. I usually do at least 4, sometimes 5 or 6 if I'm unsure of fabric. And then I usually wait a few minutes because you really don't do thick coats. You want to do thin, even coats, so it usually dries pretty quick. And then once I put the last coat of Mod Podge on, I'll actually let it sit for a couple hours before I epoxy. Go. See, now that we cut it, we now have an even line that goes all the way down. And then we'll go ahead and we'll put some Mod Podge under there and we'll seal it once we get the chance to. I usually like to do it all at once. So what we're going to do is we're going to come up here to our rim, and we're actually going to cut off some of this bulk real quick so it makes it a little easier to work with. So this is what I mean by when we were going over the edge with the Mod Podge, when we were applying it. Notice my fabric's really stiff, and if you notice when I cut it, there's no fraying. So it's a really important step to do if you want to get clean, even cuts. Alright, so what we're going to actually do is we're actually going to use the rim, the actual rim of the cup as your guide. Just going to kind of clean it up, go all the way around. That way we have a nice clean lip. Alright, now I'm actually going to take that out of here. Alright, I'm going to show you guys how to do the bottom. The bottom is actually pretty important. It's usually where a lot of people screw up, along with the actual top rim. So I'm going to show you guys the best way to do this, or at least how I do it. You notice we have all this overlap. What we're going to do is, again, we're going to actually take off some of the bulk. Don't cut it all the way down, though. Just take off some of it. Alright. So, we're actually going to leave some down here, if you can see. And what we're going to do is we're actually going to take a pair of scissors. This fabric's actually from Joann's. I got this one today. They have their Halloween fabrics out. And I believe their licensed character Halloween ones are actually 30% off right now. And they have an additional 20% off your total order coupon. So But we're going to take our scissors and we're actually going to cut strips here at the bottom of this cup. You can cut them as thick or as thin as you like. I find when you cut them a little bit thinner, it helps them form to the bottom of the cup a lot easier. So, like I said, we'll have these little tassels down here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my Loctite, and I'm actually going to spray the bottom down here. If it works. Alright, and now what we're going to do is we're actually just going to take our finger and we're going to lay these strips down and lay them flat. This may get a little sticky for you, but trust me, it works. In doing this, you won't have any bulk at the bottom of your cup. You won't have any ridges or anything like that. Your strips are conforming to the bottom of the cup by laying them down individually. Here. And that way, like I said, it's going to lay flat on the bottom of your cup. So you're not going to have a whole bunch of weirdness going on down there. And it just forms a little circle, and you're going to get it nice and flat. Now you're wondering, well, what I'm going to do with that. I'm going to show you what you're going to do with that. Let's see, I don't think I have enough off the scraps I cut, so I'm going to take some fabric. Now what you're going to actually do now, you're going to actually find a spot that you like. If, like me, I'm going to pick a face jack. Let me get a marker. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a marker and I'm actually going to draw a line on the bottom around the edge of the cup onto the fabric that I'm going to cut. That way you get a perfect circle that's going to fit to the bottom of your cup. Little circle you're going to look like. You can just kind of cut it out. Circle. And now you take your circle and just lay it right on the bottom of the cup. And now, if you notice, I have a little bit of overlap, so we're just going to actually just kind of trim that back a little bit. Way, you now have perfect circle, perfect completion to the bottom of your cup. And like I said, because we took the extra steps of cutting the strips and everything like that to help the bottom of your cup lie a little flatter, It's actually going to help you out when you go to epoxy and stuff like that. You won't have to worry about any bulges or anything like that. So now what we're going to do is, now that we have all that down, like I said, we still have a little bit of a lip that we need to Mod Podge down. We're going to go ahead and do that. Oh, my scissors. Okay. Tape out. All right. Just kind of, since the bottom hasn't been Mod Podged yet, you're going to do a couple coats on that. Like I said, try to keep it as even as possible. Don't allow for any ridges of Mod Podge or anything like that, because once it dries, it's going to look funky if you do. Make sure you go over your seam to try to get it to stick down as best as possible. Alright, and then we're going to go all over our cup again. Make sure you get that seam lip on the bottom of your cup. Try to get it to go as flat as possible. Make sure you get up and over your lip again. The reason why I say that is because that's actually a spot a lot of people miss, and the epoxy soaks through up there, and that's usually where the oil spill starts. Yes, I got it at Joann's. It was on an end cap by the Fleece Fabrics, by like the football and all that kind of stuff like that. And I know that their licensed Halloween ones are 30% off currently, and there is a coupon on there right now for 20% off your total purchase. This fabric I actually got kind of lucky because it was actually the end of the bolts, so I actually got a lot more than a quarter of a fabric, only because it was going to be like $7 or something like that for like a yard and something. So, but like I said, anytime I get fabric, I usually do a quarter of a yard. now that we got it all Mod Podge, is the final coat of Mod Podge and everything like that, we got our seams cut, we got our rim and everything like that. I'm going to go ahead and let this dry for about an hour or two, and then it'll be ready for epoxy. For those who missed some of the steps, we're still going to go over here to this one, and I'll show you guys again how we do all this. So I'm going to take that off. Alright, and then I'm going to show you guys another one here. So, like I said, this fabric is a little bit more tricky. Like I said, this one isn't 100% cotton, so it's not going to work the same way that a normal cotton fabric works. So I'm going to show you guys how to do that. Like I said, this one's got spandex in it, so it's going to have some give to it. So, what we're going to do is we're going to measure out what we need. Like I said, make sure you have an overhang or an overlip. Alright, so like I said, this one, it's going to have some stretch to it as well. So it's going to be a little bit funkier, but then again, like I said, it's where Loctite comes in. This is the type of Loctite I use. Make sure you get the lip and everything like that. So, I'm taking that off now. I'm going to take this cute fabric. Sorry, I'm a big Tim Burton fan. And it's Halloween, so I can play that game. Sorry, this one's got a little bit of curl up at the seam, so normally I would cut that off, but actually, oops. Okay, I'm actually going to cut this little curl off here because it's just being a pain. Sometimes I can get it to lay flat, sometimes it's just not worth it. Like I said, just run your hand. Let your hand do the work, trying to lay it flat. Sorry, I got a lot of time on my fingers. like I said, I just find Loctite, it's a lot messy, and it's easier to work with, and it helps your fabric to not shift, especially when you need to stretch it. So instead of having to do a patch, apply, just spray it all over and just go. Alright. So, what we're going to do now, we're going to go ahead and take some more Mod Podge and we're going to go to town. Like I said, when doing these, make sure they're even coats. Make sure there's no ridges or anything like that. Especially a fabric like this, you really want to make sure you want to seal it, because this type of fabric is actually softer than the regular cotton one. It's got a kind of a jersey feel to it, so you want to make sure you do seal it all the way, because this type of fabric will definitely absorb epoxy. Go up and over your lips. Again, now that we're coming to our overlap, you do want to make sure that you go over that, even though it's not stuck. Like I said, you want to use the Mod Podge as a bonder, so when you go to cut the seam, it won't fray. So just go around a few times, make sure your coats are even, everything's flat, smooth. Since there's a couple coats on there, we're going to go back over to, sorry, this one. Alright, and again, I'm going to show you guys how to do your stains and stuff like that. So like I said, we got our seam right here, we got our overlap. What we're going to do is we're going to take some electrical tape. Some glue on my fingers. And like I said, you don't want to do it, you really don't want to do it like trying to get the fabrics to touch. You do want it overlap, so that way you have a much cleaner seam, and you won't run a risk of it gapping. You're just going to use your electrical tape as a guide. You have a nice, clean seam right here. All right. Some of this bulk off. This makes it a little bit easier to see and work with. And then you're just going to use your rim as a guide to where you're going to cut your fabric. Nice clean lip. Like I said, just use the rim as your guide as to where to cut it off, and that way you'll have an easier time with it. Alright, here's the bottom. We're going to cut off some of this bulk again. Don't cut it all the way off. Now we're going to take our scissors and we're going to cut little strips. Like I said, you can do them wider, but I find that even when you cut them wider, you still get a bit of a bulk, like a fabric buildup. So I cut them a little thinner. That way although you'll have more strips to work with, it'll be easier to lay them flat. I have to get some of this glue off my fingers. It's a little messy. Alright, now that we got that on there, we're going to go ahead and cut our bottom piece of fabric. Find what I did. Alright. Take my piece of fabric. Again, just going to draw a little line around the cup. If this is going to work. Notice I'm using a pen instead of a Sharpie. It's because this is a lighter fabric and I don't want any Sharpie to soak up through. Draw out our little circle at the bottom of our cup. And just kind of cut it out. Alright. Just take it and we're going to place it right at the bottom of the cup. I'm just going to press it on there. If you have any overlap, go ahead and kind of trim it off if you need to. It's not a big deal. Once it's on there, we'll have a nice cute little bottom, and if you notice, you really don't see any kind of seam or anything, and it still lies flat. So now that we got all that done, some more Mod Podge, yay! And like I said, because you didn't do the Mod Podge steps on the bottom of your cup, you're going to have to do a couple coats. So you want to make sure you do that. Make sure you get the overlap on your bottom. Like I said, you want to try to get that seam to lie as flat as possible. Just make sure you're thorough as possible with coating these as you can, because like I said, one little spot and it'll ruin the whole cup. Yes, like I said, I use the rim as a guide and kind of cut it a little bit at an angle, I guess, and just to get it a little bit of lower than the lip, just a tiny bit, so the epoxy will go over it instead of just on top of it. That way you get a better seal. There we go. Alright. So now that we got 2 cups pretty much fully epoxied, and then this one has got to be finished up. I just got to spot this right here to dry so I can lay down these. Well, it's pretty much dry anyway. Again, electrical tape is what I use. Some people use painter's tape, whatever floats your goat. And then again, just use your tape as a guide to try to get it as straight as possible. It didn't cut as cleanly as I wanted it to. Mine is giving me a hard time, and I'm not liking it. I'm getting mad, guys. It's not working out. It's not cutting like I want it to. There we go. I do have a rotary cutter. I have lots of rotary cutters. Probably too many, according to my husband. Alright, again on the bottom, don't cut all of it off, just cut the bulk. Doesn't need to be perfect, you just need to cut some of it off. Normally I don't have too many issues with it, it's just for some reason, sometimes these funky fabrics that aren't 100% cotton will give me a little bit of a hard time. This one's got stretch to it. Alright. To our bottom. Tassels, so try not to make them too wide. And just lay them flat all the way around the bottom. Very simple. Like I said, it'll make things much easier for you when you go to cover the bottom. bottom. Scraps everywhere, guys. Alright. Let's see. Perfect. My pen. There's a reason I'm doing it like this instead of last time that I showed you guys. I'll show you guys in just a second why. Because I found lock, shock, and barrel in a perfect little circle. So I didn't want it to shift or stretch or anything like that, so there's the reason why I did it that way. Cut the bottom, because like I said, it's a fresh piece of fabric, so you want to make sure it's sealed properly. You don't want any oil slicks or anything like that. Make sure you get the edges of the seams and everything like that. You want it to press down as best as possible. Alright, and then like I said, we're going to do another coat of Mod Podge. This one I may spray seal it just in case because of the type of fabric that it is, and I really don't want to risk any issues later on. Alright, now that one's done, we're going to let that dry. The Nightmare Before Christmas and the Disney one, I got these all at Joann's right now because it is Halloween. They are doing a 30% off the licensed Disney fabrics, or not just Disney, just licensed character fabrics. And then there is a coupon on the website or on the app for 20% off your total purchase, so highly recommend that. But like I said, once everything dries and everything like that, they look really cool. And that's what the bottom of your cups look like when they are done properly. So there's that. Because that one's dry, I'll probably go ahead and epoxy it. If you guys want to see that stage, you're more than welcome to. Alright. So we will do, since you're the wet one. You're very welcome. They had a couple different ones. They did have a flannel one, and then they had one that is kind of like this one. That was also a stretch. It was mostly Sally's kind of dress pattern with Jack and Sally on it. So there's that. Why don't you just run? There we go. Bam. Alright. Baby wipes are awesome for everything. Sorry, I got a lot of glue on my fingers. Alright. Okay. So what am I actually doing? Excuse me. What I'm doing is actually just making sure I'm just doing a spray seal on the Mod Podge. Alright. Okay. So, epoxy time. Fun times. Instead of scraping the cups to make sure I get everything out of them, I just hit them with the heat gun real quick, and it all comes right out. What's up, Creeper? What's up? You can come in.
No, I'm good.
I'm almost done.
Oh,
Okay. The kid's up?
yeah.
Okay. I'll be out in a minute. Sorry, my husband was creeping in my window. He laughs at me when I do my tutorials and stuff. Alright. I don't actually put any, I don't actually pour any epoxy down on the bottom. I usually just take my hand that I've already been rubbing the epoxy on the main part of the cup and then just kind of wipe down there. I really don't want too much buildup because I don't want to change how the cup sits. I don't have to worry about sanding or anything. Sorry, my greasy. Monte, Nugget, you're fine. Right. Epoxy number 1. Ready to number 2. Somebody's gonna see it. That's funny. Oh, sorry, guys. Big bad protectors. Even though my husband's at the front door. Sorry, my daughter's talking to me. Alright. So, yeah, you got glitter on there. Damn the glitter. The glitter, it gets everywhere. That's why I usually don't do too many glitter cups. Really don't like working with it. I get silicone molds for any leftover epoxy. I hate wasting. These should come out really cute. I'll show you guys in a second. pretty sure I saw a spot on the jack, so I want to make sure I got them all. There we go. Alright. Silicone molds. I have different shapes and stuff like that. Normally what happens if I have leftover epoxy, I usually sometimes try to make them matching to the cups or whatever, but I'll sometimes add a little bit of color or something like that on there. This is the one I did. I'll let them dry and everything like that, and then I'll actually attach keychains to them. I'll also spray them with triple thick or some kind of sealant to make them glossy again, because sometimes the part that is sitting in the mold will come out kind of like matte and kind of foggy, so you just spray them and they'll come right back. They're really fun to do, and like I said, it's a great personal touch to add with cups that are outgoing. So like I said, I usually just make sure they match. There are also these little ones I actually use for samples of the glitters I have. This is actually a glow-in-the-dark one. This helps out. I got a little Lego bin. I got emojis. Lego blocks. I have these ones that actually have the pre-drilled holes in them or whatever. They're really, like I said, they're really good for, especially if you keep them all the same size. Like I said, I use the little ones mostly as examples of the different glitters and products and stuff like that, to help show the examples of what I have. And then I actually drill the holes in them with a Dremel. I have a little Dremel bit, that tiny little thing that it'll drill a perfect hole for me. And then I'll just add a jump chain or a jump loop, close it, and then I'll attach the split ring and whatever other tassel or anything I want to add to it. So like I said, they're really cool to have. Like I said, I hate wasting epoxy, so they're nice to use. And like I said, if I had, especially if it's a glitter cup, if it's an outgoing glitter cup for a customer or something like that, I'll make it a matching color to go with the cup. So like I said, it's a nice little personal touch. A lot of people like it. I do sell them individually for between usually $3 and $6, I think it is. I'll add glitter. I'll add alcohol inks. I also, I don't know if any of you guys know, people call me the Did Spay girl because I use actually a lot of Did Spay powders. See the Did Spay powders? Those are actually fun. This is actually my alternative to using glitter. Came out really pretty and sparkly. This is not glitter, guys. No glitter involved. Yay! Some of them are color shifts, that kind of thing. This one changes colors from different angles. I'll actually, I've been mixing a little bit of the metal flakes or powders or something like that into them. So like I said, as examples to show what I have. Like I said, it's a nice little personal touch. A lot of people like it. They get a kick out of them. Get another one epoxy when it's done. But there you guys go. I hope this tutorial has been helpful for you on how to do some of these tumblers. If you guys have any other questions, feel free to post. I'll try to answer them as best I can. But until then, I hope you guys had a good time watching, and happy crafting. Bye.